This is in 2004. You guys form the Road Hammers. This is a trio. How does this come to be? How do you join forces with these guys, and where does the idea of starting a band together come from?
It was interesting. At that point in my life, I was actually quitting music. I was living in Nashville. I had moved back from Nashville. Um, I was living there on my own, and things were not really going my way. And I just had kind of reached a point where I felt like I'd had enough. It was time to get on with my life. I had a baby on the way, um, and I was kind of my focus was shifting. It was like I've got to take care of a family now, and this is this is not paying the bills. So I was going to quit music, and I got a call from my then manager, um, to that Jason McCoy was trying to reach out to me. He wanted me to audition for a band he was putting together, and I was like, man, I don't know if I want to do that. I brushed it off twice, and my wife at the time uh, encouraged me. She was like, maybe you should like look into this, at least see what it's all about, what he wants to talk about. So I went down to Calgary. I was living in Edmonton and met with him and Chris Byrne. And Chris had already been playing bass in Jason's solo band. And he kind of told me of this concept and asked if I'd be interested in auditioning for the band. He gave me an audition. He gave me 6 songs to learn, um, and said, "Hey, let's meet back here in 2 weeks, and we'll run some songs and see if you got what it takes." So I'd never been in an audition before up until that point,
It's
and I'd
pretty
never
daunting,
played.
right? Like, how do
It,
I
it was
present myself in my full capacity? It's tough. It's like a job interview. Those suck. It doesn't, it's two things. One, having the actual skill, but then it's having the social skills as well to get past the interview into the actual job. So it's, man, it's tough doing the auditions.
it was, and I had never played lead guitar in a band before. I'd always been like the center, the lead singer, who occasionally played lead. I'd play one or two leads, but I wasn't a Sean Bareau. I mean, not too many people are. So, but you know what I mean? Like I didn't play and sing and do that thing. So this was like, and this was obviously 20 years ago. So this was not, it was very foreign to me, and I was super nervous. And I showed up to the gig. I'd worked day and night on these songs. I showed up to the audition, and they didn't tell me, but they were filming. CMT was there filming the first episodes of the TV show called The Road Hammers. And they put a lapel mic on me and stuck a camera in my face and said, "Okay, let's see what you got, kid."
No pressure.
Oh, geez, yeah, yeah. I was sweating bullets, but we went in and we played 4 songs. I remember we played "Ramblin' Man," Eastbound, the original Eastbound and Down, Girl in the Billboard, and one more tune I can't remember. We played 4 songs, and Jay was smiling the whole time and bopping. And he left the room. He's like, "Okay, we're gonna go. I gotta go talk to so and so and blah blah blah." And he left the room, and I was just kind of sitting there like, okay. And I didn't really know Chris at the time, but I knew um, the drummer at the time, who was the one who had recommended me for the audition. Apparently, Jason had auditioned, 12 or 14 other people, but no one had really kind of fallen into the what he was looking for, kind of the rock guy to his country. And he said, "Man, this is the first audition that I've been in that Jay was smiling the whole time." So, yeah, Jason came back in about 10 minutes later, and he offered me the gig. And literally, that was the moment where my life changed monumentally, because up until that point, I had just been chipping away playing in the club scene, and I had put out a couple of records on my own, but I'd maybe had some regional success, but nothing to the extent of what I was about to step into.
So Jason McCoy had 22 singles and a gold album before you joined forces for the Road Hammers. How much did it mean to you to lock arms with someone like that? Like, from the start, you're starting a new project with someone with such success and such a track record.
it was pretty incredible. I don't even know if I wrapped my head around it at the time, but because it was such a blur. But he had also come off of the Canadian Country Music Awards Male Vocalist of the Year. He had just won that, so he left that and suddenly started a band, and it happened so quickly that because while we were making the record, we were also filming a TV show. So when the album came out, so did the first, or before the album came out, the TV show was on the air, and every twice a week we were on CMT with this TV show of the making of the band, and then when the album dropped was the last episode of the TV show, and the thing just blew up.
Man, I have some kind words here from one Jason McCoy. So I went to the source itself, and Jason says, I'd say first and foremost, Clay is passionate about everything he does, playing guitar, writing, or just talking about motorbikes. He's passionate and alive, and that breathes life into everything he's involved in. I'd say he lives life to the fullest, and his fire for experiencing what's next is infectious. So that's from the one and only Jason McCoy.
Well, he is not only a great bandmate, but a dear friend of mine, and we have been through the ringer together, and I learned so much from him. And we're talking about guitar players. He is probably one of the premier guitar players this country has to offer. So underrated as a musician. He's incredible, and man, I really learned so much from playing in this band and from him and you know on how to do it at a top tier level, because like I said, at the point when I had joined the band, I was just kind of deer in the headlights, and all of a sudden we're thrown into this mix where within the span, I joined the band and 6 months later we had a number one record, uh you know
Four
a
top
number
10
one
singles.
show, four top 10 singles, a number one single with Eastbound and Down, and we're on a tour bus. And I also had it at that by that time I had a 6 month old baby and a new wife, and I was like, man, what is happening to my life? It was just turned upside down.
How quickly life can change, eh?
It sure did, and we hit the road and never looked back. That after that first record, um, we moved on and signed a record deal in Nashville with Montage Records, and we all moved to Nashville, and the rest is kind of history. We just kept motoring from there.
So before you did the audition, there was the TV show that was already happening, leading into the Road Hammers. Was the record label already in place as well? I guess I'm just curious where the record label comes into play. Is it based on Jason's past success, and when he says, I want to start a new project, there's already a label ready to put that album out?
Well, he had the label, yes, because it was the same label that was putting out his solo records, but they didn't support the album, nor did they believe in it. Even like our label and manager at the time, uh, was just there. It's like, yeah, if it's a success, great, but he wasn't putting a whole lot of extra effort into making anything happen until it did blow up, and then it was like, oh yeah, this is my band.
Let's put some money behind this. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's man, it's so crazy the amount of luck that's involved. So there's talent, there's writing good music, but then it's like the people at the labels, it's like who's there, who believes in it, what are the fans looking for at this exact moment in time when an album comes out. Radio stations, it's like some are bought out by conglomerates and people can't choose what they want to like. You need like a perfect storm to have a platinum album like your debut and four top 10 singles off of it. It's so wild. It's crazy.
It really was. The timing and all the stars, like you said, had to align, and it was really incredible that it did. And over my career, I've seen that lightning hit more than once, and I it's like you can kind of feel when things are all kind of coming together. But that was the first time and the moment that was pretty incredible.
Do you ever think back to what your life would be like if you had made a different decision? So you mentioned that um, the band reached out to you and offered an audition. You said no a couple times. Do you ever think what your life would look like now had you not changed your mind and done that audition, or if that drummer hadn't thought of you and referred you to the band?
Yeah, who knows where I would have ended up, what would have happened, how the story would have gone. But I've always been a big believer in the power of yes. If you say no to something, you know exactly what's going to happen. If you say yes to something, anything could happen. You never know what could happen, and that's always been exciting to me. I've always wanted to know, what's on the other bend of the river, and this was one of those opportunities where it was just like, okay, yes, let's see where this goes. It was only supposed to be one record. There was never supposed to be a Roadhammers for 20 years, and that was widely known in the band when we started. That was established. It was like, hey, we're going to do this one record. It's a one-off thing, and then everybody's going to go back to doing their own things. And we did it, and it was so massive that it just took on a life of its own, and it eclipsed anything that anyone had in the band had done before.
Why do you think that it was that perfect storm? Like, was it just that the record was so solid, the hits were undeniable? I guess with the TV show, I guess with Jason's prior, I guess I'm answering the question, but why
Yeah,
why do you think it was just this undeniable entity?
I think all of those things that you just said, the combination of Jason's success and the hit songs, and he also had, and what I think a lot of artists don't have when they go in to make a record is they just put a bunch of songs together and go, hey, this is the record. I hope you like it. He never did that. The Roadhammers has always been had a plan. It was written out note for note. This is what it is, and this is what the songs have to be, what the band has to look like, and what we're going to sound like, and this is the logo, and everything was planned out meticulously before it was launched, so that when we were looking for songs for the record, if they didn't fit in this little thing, in this little target on the dartboard, that was a road hammer song. It had to be about road. It had to be about um, about trucking. It had to be like it had to have a certain feel to be a road hammer song. And because everything was so concise, I think that also made it more powerful when it came out. It was like, hey, we know already what this is. We don't have to spoon feed it to you. The second that you turn it on.
And it sounds like you had a business and you had a business plan and a vision for the future and goals that were set. But you guys took kind of that business acumen and you brought it to the music industry. So I think that's smart. I mean, why would you just wing it in this industry versus, any other entrepreneur that's starting a business? You have to have all that stuff in place to ever get funding. So why wouldn't a musician have that same level of clarity?
Yeah, and that was all Jason. I can't take any credit for that. He had the plan. He had the vision. This was his brainchild. This was his baby, and I really was just kind of, as the albums went on, I became more of a creative partner and learning from him on how he was kind of putting this thing together, and input into the songs and the music and everything. But he had this kind of idea, and I think when we all kind of came together in the studio, is that's when it became a band, and it was like, oh, okay, this is something. When you mix, you know, Jason's, you know, country music credibility and his artistic, he's an encyclopedia of country music. He knows, he could take a deep dive for hours with him talking about, all the classic country, and he knows every song, and you mix that with Chris's, you know, blues history and the stuff that he plays. His first love is the blues, and me with my rock and roll background, and the three of us together, it just made something that was very original.
The four singles from that album, was that the first time you heard your own music on the radio? You said you might have had some local success with your solo albums, but what was it like hearing your music on the radio for the first time?
But it wasn't the first time. Like I said, I'd had a couple albums out that had charted, that had had some success, mostly regional. But I definitely had some songs out on the radio, which was exciting, but nothing to that extent. And I remember when the band, what really struck home for me that this thing was turning into something much bigger than I'd been a part of before is that when I got hired into the band, the first thing that I did was I joined another band to play only lead guitar so that I was basically going to school. I'm like, I've got to get in a band where I just play lead guitar and don't sing and work on my chops because
You
I'm
went to the
not good
School
enough.
of
Like
Rock.
I did because I would kind of I felt like I faked my way into the band audition, you know. I got through the audition, but it's like these are the only four songs I know how to play lead guitar on. So I started playing in this country cover band um, for a few months right after my audition, just trying to hone my chops a bit more. And we were playing in Calgary at this grungy club called the TNC, and in between sets, they had a big screen that would come down in front of the stage, like a projection screen. And in between sets, they were playing CMT, and the Roadhammers video came on, and I was up on the screen, and people were looking at me and
Kind of
looking
a
at the
big
screen,
deal.
going, "Hey, what's going on here? What are you doing here?" And then I realized, like, holy shit, this is happening, and it did. Like, it took off in a crazy way.
There's a deeper cut on that debut album called Willin', which is, one of my favorites, has amazing harmonies. Do harmonies, do harmonies come naturally to you? Like, do you hear harmonies easily? And is it easy for you to sing harmonies, or is that something you have to work on the same as playing lead guitar?
That came a lot easier to me with the singing stuff. Playing that, I've always been able to hear the harmonies. One thing that we've had since the beginning, though, is a great mix with our vocals. With the three of us singing together, doesn't sound like anything else. And it's something that we really worked on too. We did a lot of singing together, and still do. Before every show, we're sitting in the back, warming up, singing songs together, and it's something that a skill that like anything else has to be developed. But when we first heard it on tape, we knew we had something magical.